What if I told you that one of the most ordinary things around you, the sidewalks you walk on, the bridges you cross, even the towering skyscrapers of our cities, all trace back to an invention over 2,000 years old? And here's the twist. It wasn't invented for emperors or kings alone, but for ordinary people, citizens of Rome. Without it, the Colosseum would have crumbled long ago. The Pantheon dome would never have stood, and modern life as we know it might not even exist. That everyday object is concrete.
Yes, concrete!
The Romans didn't just build an empire, they built the very foundations of our world. When we think of the Romans, it's easy to picture their legions, their emperors, and their conquests. But beneath all the glory of war and politics lay something far more profound: their genius for invention. Rome wasn't just about blood and steel, it was about bricks, mortar, and the ordinary tools of life. And that's what we're diving into today, the everyday Roman inventions that still shape our lives. We'll begin with the astonishing story of Roman concrete, a material so powerful it could harden underwater and last millennia. Then, we'll step into Roman streets to see how innovations like roads, crosswalks, and glass windows transformed daily life. We'll enter their kitchens and baths to uncover how simple objects, spoons, frying pans, and heated floors, shaped their culture. And finally, we'll pull back and ask, why do these ancient inventions matter today? The question guiding us is simple but profound. How did Rome's inventions not only build an empire, but also build the modern world? When we think of the Roman Empire, the first images that come to mind are often grand. Gladiators fighting in the Colosseum, legions marching in perfect unison, emperors crowned in gold and purple. Yet, the real genius of Rome was not only in its armies or its emperors, but in its ability to shape the everyday world. The Romans had an uncanny skill for practical problem solving, for taking ordinary challenges and finding extraordinary solutions. This was not a society that valued abstract thought alone, as much as it did the tangible and the functional. While Greek philosophers contemplated the mysteries of existence and Egyptian kings raised tombs for eternity, the Romans quietly reshaped the fabric of daily life with things that would outlast both pharaohs and philosophers. They mastered engineering not simply to awe, but to serve. They invented objects, systems, and methods that directly improved the quality of life of their people. Roads that allowed soldiers and merchants to travel efficiently, aqueducts that carried clean water to bustling cities, sewage systems that prevented disease, and even postal services to maintain communication across their vast domains. The key to Roman innovation was adaptation. They rarely invented entirely from nothing, but rather took ideas from others and perfected them. The Etruscans, Greeks, and Carthaginians gave them inspiration, but the Romans were relentless refiners. A Greek might have imagined the concept of arches, but the Romans built aqueducts with them. A Mediterranean trader may have experimented with glass, but the Romans transformed it into windows for their villas. For the Romans, an idea was not valuable unless it could be applied to daily life in a way that was enduring. This mindset produced inventions that did not simply belong to Rome, but to the future. Every city we live in today, every household object we use without thought, may carry within it the faint shadow of a Roman hand. This genius for merging utility with permanence explains why 2,000 years later, we still walk along Roman-inspired roads, read from books shaped in the Roman model, and build with materials they discovered. Among the most transformative of Rome's contributions to civilization stands a seemingly ordinary material: concrete. For most people today, concrete is unremarkable. It is the grey foundation of sidewalks, bridges, and buildings, rarely admired, often ignored. Yet it was Rome that gave this substance its power. Roman engineers discovered that by mixing volcanic ash, known as pozzolana, with lime and seawater. They could create a building material that was stronger and more versatile than anything the world had known before. Unlike stone, which required immense labor to quarry, transport, and fit together, concrete could be poured into molds and shaped into arches, vaults, and domes. It allowed the Romans to create structures that were not only monumental in scale, but enduring in strength. The marvel of Roman concrete was not only its strength, but its adaptability. The Romans were able to construct harbors and piers that could harden underwater, something modern engineers only rediscovered in recent centuries. This unique characteristic allowed them to dominate the Mediterranean, building sea walls and docks that could withstand the relentless assault of waves. It also enabled the construction of the Pantheon, with its massive dome that remains to this day the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. Nearly 2,000 years after it was built, the Pantheon stands not as a ruin, but as a functioning building, a testimony to the durability of Roman craftsmanship. What makes this invention extraordinary is not just the monumental architecture it made possible, but how it transformed daily life. With concrete, Romans could construct aqueducts that brought water to ordinary homes, bridges that connected villages to cities, and apartment blocks, insulae, that housed common citizens in Rome's crowded streets. This was not a material reserved for emperors and gods alone. It was a foundation for all society. The permanence of Roman concrete gave their world a stability that resonated far beyond their empire's collapse. When modern engineers study ancient structures still standing in Pompeii or along Roman roads, they are humbled by how a civilization, long fallen, left behind materials that modern science only recently began to replicate. The humble concrete was more than a building tool. It was a silent revolution that still underpins the very world we inhabit today. Concrete may have been the backbone of Roman engineering, but it was far from the only object that shaped daily life in ways we continue to feel. The Romans had a talent for turning comfort into invention and necessity into innovation. One such creation was the use of glass in domestic settings. While glass had existed before Rome, it was the Romans who first began producing it on a large scale and refining it to such clarity that it could be used for windows. For the first time, sunlight could enter homes without wind or rain following behind, changing the very way Roman villas were designed and experienced. It was a subtle but profound shift in how human beings interacted with their living spaces. Equally transformative were Roman roads. These were not mere tracks beaten down by the feet of men and beasts. They were carefully constructed with layers of stone, gravel, and sand, designed for durability and efficiency. Roads connected not just armies, but commerce and culture. Alongside these roads were innovations like curbstones, drainage systems, and even crosswalks, features so common in our modern cities that we barely recognize their origin. A Roman citizen crossing a busy street in Pompeii might well recognize the raised stepping stones of a modern pedestrian crossing. Perhaps one of the most overlooked yet extraordinary Roman contributions was the Codex, the book form we still use today. Before Rome, knowledge was stored on scrolls, cumbersome rolls of papyrus or parchment that were awkward to use. Romans began binding individual sheets together between covers, creating a compact, durable, and easy to navigate form of writing. This invention revolutionized how humans stored and shared knowledge, and it remains at the heart of libraries, classrooms, and personal reading experiences even in our digital age. These objects, glass windows, roads with crosswalks, the Codex, were not reserved for emperors alone. They touched the lives of ordinary citizens. A shopkeeper could read a record from a bound codex. A family could dine by the natural light entering through a glass pane. A child could walk safely across a busy Roman street. Each innovation was a reminder that the Roman obsession with order and structure was not confined to their empire, but extended into the very fabric of daily existence. These were the silent revolutions that made Roman life both advanced and strangely familiar to us today. The true measure of Rome's ingenuity was not only what they built, but how they lived. Inventions were not abstract wonders, but integrated into the very rhythm of everyday existence. Take, for example, the Roman bathhouse. At first glance, it seems an indulgence, a place of leisure. Yet the engineering that made it possible reveals much more. The hypercaust system, a form of underfloor heating, warmed the baths and even private homes of the wealthy. Heated air circulated beneath raised floors and through hollow walls, creating warmth on demand. It was the ancestor of our central heating systems, and a reminder that Roman comfort was born of Roman engineering. The kitchen, too, was a place of innovation. Roman households used utensils and cooking techniques we still recognize: frying pans, pots, ladles, even the spoon in its familiar form. Food was not only prepared more efficiently, but shared in ways that influenced social gatherings for centuries. Dining was ritualized, structured, and enhanced by objects of practical design. Even something as simple as a forked utensil began to emerge in Roman culinary life, paving the way for the cutlery we now take for granted. Urban life in Rome further demonstrated the empire's obsession with structure and order. Street lamps, fueled by oil, lit parts of the city at night, making nocturnal movements safer. Public fountains ensured access to clean water, while the Cloaca Maxima, one of the world's earliest sewage systems, carried waste out of the city. The Romans understood that an empire could only thrive if its citizens lived in health and relative comfort, and so they invested in objects and systems that sustained urban life. Each of these inventions, whether a heated bath, a spoon, or a street lamp, represented a philosophy. Rome believed in shaping the environment to suit human needs rather than surrendering to nature's inconveniences. It was not luxury for its own sake, but practicality elevated to an art form. This cultural legacy of engineering everyday comfort explains why Roman influence endured long after their empire crumbled. Medieval Europe inherited ruins, but also habits, objects, and systems that it carried forward. The Romans embedded their genius not only in marble and stone, but in the very tools of living, and it is in those tools that their culture quietly persisted across centuries. The story of Roman inventions is not confined to the past, nor is it a matter of broken ruins and dusty relics. It lives on in our homes, our streets, and our cities. When we open a book, whether a modern paperback or a digital codex on a tablet, we are using a format born of Rome. When we glance through a window pane or cross a road safely designed with pedestrian paths, we follow in the footsteps of Roman citizens who first enjoyed these conveniences. When we walk past buildings of concrete and steel, we are seeing a direct descendant of the material the Romans perfected 2,000 years ago. What is remarkable is not only the endurance of these inventions, but their universality. They belong to no single culture today. They are human inheritance. Yet at their core lies the Roman spirit, the belief that innovation should serve life itself. Their roads stretched across continents, but their lamps lit the way for individuals at night. Their aqueducts fed entire cities, but the water from them poured into the humble cups of ordinary citizens. In this balance between the grand and the everyday, Rome found its enduring power. Modern engineers and architects continue to marvel at the secrets of Roman concrete, studying its chemical composition in hopes of replicating its self-healing durability. Urban planners trace the roots of organized city grids back to Roman colonies. Even our legal and administrative systems, though not physical objects, reflect the same Roman pragmatism that shaped their material world. Every time we build, read, eat, or travel, we unknowingly participate in a Roman inheritance that has never truly faded. Rome may have fallen as an empire, its legions scattered, its emperors long forgotten, but its inventions persist in ways emperors could never have imagined. The things we often overlook, the sidewalk beneath our feet, the warm air rising from our heaters, the books stacked on our shelves, are living fragments of an ancient civilization. The past is not only found in ruins and museums, it is hidden in the ordinary things that shape our present. Proof that Rome's greatest empire was not carved in marble or inscribed on scrolls, but woven into the simple fabric of human daily life. So the next time you step onto a sidewalk or look up at a towering skyscraper, remember, you are walking in the footsteps of Romans. Their empire may have fallen, but their ideas never did. Rome lives on, not just in marble ruins or Latin texts, but in the simple, ordinary things we rarely notice. That is the real empire. An empire remembered not in blood, but in concrete, in windows, in books, in every object that quietly shapes our lives today. If you enjoyed this journey into the everyday world of ancient Rome, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more adventures into the past. And I'd love to hear from you. Which Roman invention surprised you the most? Was it the power of concrete, the invention of the book, or maybe the comfort of heated floors? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep history alive together.